When we think of monster movies, we often think The Thing, The Fly, King Kong, Predator, etc. Iconic monster movies with iconic monster designs. However, there are some movies out there that were truly terrible but had quite the stellar monster as its antagonist. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 best horror movie monsters in terrible movies. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Also remember, it's my list, my choices. If you don't agree with me, it won't keep me up at night. That's for sure. I can already tell no one's going to agree with this number, so don't yell at me. In at number 5, Jaws from Jaws the Revenge. I think we can all agree that there were far too many Jaws movies that were made. I personally think it should have been one and done. Others think the second deserves to be included. I disagree though, but this is my list, so I'm allowed to say that. Released in 1987 and directed by Joseph Sargent, Jaws the Revenge, also known as Jaws 4, is the third sequel to the Steven Spielberg movie Jaws and is the fourth and final installment in the franchise. Thank God. The movie focuses on the widowed Ellen Brody and her belief that a great white shark is seeking revenge on her family after it kills her son and follows her all the way to the Bahamas. Lol. Even describing this movie sounds like a joke to me. Honestly, at this point, if you truly believe a shark is hunting you down, just move somewhere landlocked, away from the ocean, away from the shark that can't come on land. Just a thought. Move to Wyoming. Is that landlocked? I don't even know. I'm just naming a state. Kansas. They don't have water to swim in. I definitely wouldn't be going to the Bahamas. Anyway, despite what anyone says, the shark is still scary, but this could be because I'm terrified of sharks. This is essentially just a list of my fears. Some might say it's ridiculous and silly. I say it's a man-eating monster that keeps me up at night. It's just in a bad movie, that's all. Even though it looks mechanical and fake, it's scary. If you haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. It really helps us out a lot in the YouTube algorithm. And with that, let's go into number 4. Coming in at number 4, we have Anaconda from Anaconda. Oh, Anaconda. I've talked about this movie a few times now on this channel, but I can't seem to talk about it enough. It's so bad that it's good. It's the ultimate guilty pleasure, and it earns a spot on our list simply because I'm petrified of snakes. Released in 1997 and directed by Siva N. What a name. Anaconda follows a documentary film crew in the Amazon rainforest that is captured by a snake hunter who is hunting down a giant, legendary green anaconda. The movie of course features the iconic accent by Jon Voight.
First you must pass a waterfall, protected by warrior snakes. Travel through the land of the sheer Shama until you come to a wall so high.
I'm not sure he even knows what accent he was trying to do. It also stars Ice Cube, Eric Stoltz, Owen Wilson, and J-Lo. It's strange, I still can't quite wrap my head around this cast. Honestly, the movie is a mess, especially in the end where the anaconda faces off against the group. It's painful to watch, but honestly there are some shining moments. Despite there being some terrible CGI moments, the snake is genuinely pretty damn scary. For me at least. But like I said, I'm terrified of snakes, even if it's in a CGI form. I'm also scared of spiders and found arachnophobia and 8-legged freaks too much to handle. And 8-legged freaks was a joke. I'm weak when it comes to stuff like that. Homicidal maniacs though, no problem at all. Anaconda was nominated for 6 Razzie Awards back in 1998, including Worst Picture, Worst Actor, Worst Director, Worst Screenplay, Worst New Star, and Worst Screen Couple. Savagery, but honestly all well deserved because Anaconda is truly, truly terrible. But I love to hate it. That's for sure. In at number 3, Smiley from Smiley. Smiley is truly a terrible movie, really bad, but you have to admit Smiley is a great looking horror monster with a face that will send chills down your spine. Released in 2012 and directed by Michael Gallagher, Smiley stars Caitlin Gerard, Melanie Papalia, Keith David, and Shane Dawson. Yes, Shane Dawson. Toby Turner also pops up in the movie. Remember, he's the YouTuber everyone cancelled because of assault allegations. So, what a movie. This whole thing is just a mess, honestly. Anyway, the movie revolves around the titular Smiley killer, who is supposedly an internet myth. It is said that if you type, "I did it for the lulz," while on a chat roulette style website, your chat partner will be killed by Smiley before you yourself are killed. The monster is named this because he mutilated his own face by stitching his eyes shut and carved one big smile into his mouth. Lovely stuff. Now there truly isn't too much else to say about Smiley as he has only made one real appearance at the end of the movie, but that one appearance is pretty damn terrifying simply because of how he looks. This dude is not to be messed with. It's just a damn shame that he pops up in such an awful movie. So much potential for this character only to appear in a movie alongside Shane Dawson. What a joke. If you don't quite believe me, Smiley received an 18% rating, with many calling it a rip-off of Scream and Candyman, just obviously not as good or effective in its thrills. Bloody Disgusting also panned the movie, stating that the writers took a strong modern idea, overthought it, and turned it into a generic 90s movie that'll have you throwing popcorn at the screen. The sad thing about the movie is the fact that it's not so bad it's good, it's simply so bad it's bad. And Smiley the villain deserved so much better. I said it. And I mean it. In at number 2, The Pale Lady, From Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Now I am 50-50 about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I keep changing my mind on whether in fact I enjoyed it or not. Right now though, not a fan, which is why it has a spot on our list. Released in 2019 and directed by Andre Ovredal and produced by Guillermo del Toro, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is based on the children's book series of the same name. The movie follows a group of unsuspecting teens who stumble across the spooky home of Sarah Bellows, a tortured soul who detailed her horrible life and secrets in a series of scary stories. And once the teens find the book, their lives descend into madness, with themselves becoming a part of the stories. The most terrifying and memorable part of the entire movie involves the Pale Lady, a scene which stands out in a somewhat underwhelming movie, which had the potential to be something truly great, especially with Del Toro producing. This monster occurs when 2 of the teens head to a local hospital, and Chuck becomes trapped by the Pale Lady. She hunts him down through the halls of the hospital before consuming him whole. It's definitely a creepy moment that isn't easy to forget, what with the red flickering lights, the smile on her face, and the slow pace in which she moves, but no matter what, she was always gonna get to him. And that she does. And finally, in at number 1, we have Sharktopus from Sharktopus. Now, I was only just introduced to this movie, and I, for one, am not disappointed. That's not saying it was a good movie, not even in the slightest, but the Sharktopus is something to behold, that's for sure. Released in 2010 and directed by Declan O'Brien, Sharktopus stars Eric Roberts, who will apparently accept any role, and tells the story of a half-shark, half-octopus creature dubbed S11, which was created by a group known as Blue Water. However, like any experiment in a horror movie, things go terribly wrong when the creation begins to turn on the creator. S11 begins to kill tourists and locals in the area, with the crew having to hunt it down and stop it before it's too late. It's the same story as any monster movie. There's nothing new here, just a brand new badass looking creature which sadly pops up in an underwhelming movie starring Eric Roberts. Not even the superior Roberts. I would accept Emma Roberts, who is his daughter. Just so we've got the lineage correct. It's a damn shame. Now, Sharktopus has been described by Kevin Carr as cinematic junk food, and he's not wrong. He also goes on to state, Sharktopus represents both your guilt and the assuaging of it, all in one tasty morsel. 2 official sequels were released, one called Sharktopus vs. Petaracuda, which I don't know if that's even correct, it doesn't even exist online, so someone made that up, which was released on August 2nd, 2014, and the other was Sharktopus vs. Whale Wolf, which was released on July 19th, 2015. So if you want to get your fill of more ridiculous but wildly entertaining monsters, go check them out. Just skip over Sharktopus, because no one has time for Eric Roberts. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any horror movie monsters that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 horror movie victims who deserve death part 2. Patricio said, she said grisly end, makes me chuckle. Do you want to know something funny? That wasn't even intended, but when I said it, I remember Chris laughed. And in my mind I was like, oh, pretend that was intentional. It wasn't. It was just an unintentional pun about Midsummer. Love it. Tiffany Benefield said, I think I have to agree with you on Christine and Drag Me to Hell. It never hurts to be compassionate, especially when someone has fallen on hard times. You rock, Queen Lucy. Thanks. Yeah, I also agree with myself. I agree with myself in most cases. She didn't deserve to live, but I also believe most people deserve to die in horror movies. That's my thoughts. Ben the Insomniac Fletcher said, Juno never died, I'm afraid. She's actually in The Descent Part 2, lol. Well, I haven't seen The Descent Part 2. So, in my head, she just died. If we just think about The Descent, she's dead. I didn't watch The Descent Part 2, so it doesn't really exist to me. Asaya Hat said, you should try Lovecraft Country. Just finished it and it was a powerful, pretty creepy show. Also, keep up the great work, Lucy. Thank you. It is on my list and it has been for a very, very long time. I just keep forgetting what I need to watch and what I haven't watched. I just want to watch the Nixium cult show on repeat. Scott Gajewski said, I feel this list could go on forever with almost any teen horror movie cast. That's very true. I didn't even think about the teen horror movies. Some people yelled at me because I did select antagonists as part of some of my numbers, and I understand that makes no sense on my list. So I'm just gonna delve into the teen horrors next. Scream, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Johnny Depp. Hell yeah. William Jonathan Ang III said, the Dark Queen is in a good mood today. I have actually been in a really good mood for the last couple days. Did you notice, Chris? Today's been fun. Yeah, I don't know why I'm in a good mood. It could change any minute now. Don't know. No, Keegan, that's what it was. It made me happy. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. Until next time, see you later. Smiley stars Caitlin Gerard. Oh, I forgot to look this word up. Assuaging. Let me double check it because I think this is a smart word.
Assuaging.
Putaracuda.
A classic horror movie move is to leave the audience wondering if the evil force has actually been vanquished. If your protagonists tie everything up in a pretty little bow, what's there left to be continuously afraid of? Sometimes the eternal nature of a malevolent being can be sort of vague. Maybe they're still around, maybe they're not. But when a creature continues moving and shaking even as the credits roll, that's when you know it's the real deal. So here are the top 5 horror movie monsters that can't be stopped. Let's rock and roll. Coming in at number 5, we've got Pumpkinhead. That's right, the titular terror from the premier gourd-themed horror movie, Pumpkinhead cannot be stopped. I mean, technically, he can be, but only temporarily and at great personal cost. And also, the threat will always be looming, never to actually be cast away. Plus, it's in human nature to keep cycles like this going. See, Pumpkinhead is all about revenge. Humans love revenge, it's in our blood. Someone killed your family, now you gotta kill their family. But then the family of their family will kill you, and whatever new family you've made in that time it took you to kill their family will now be a target for the next revenge-fueled family rampage. You see what I'm getting at? Cycles of revenge never end. Even if we all know that an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. Seems like everyone's just willing to go sightless if it means getting back at someone else. We learn the true nature of revenge in Pumpkinhead when poor Ed Harley puts his own life on the line to strike back at the chopper-riding teens who took his son's life. By performing the revenge ritual, he brings the hideous monster to life, which then goes on a killing spree. Soon enough though, Ed realizes that the revenge he sought wasn't what he really wanted. He also realizes that it's quickly going way too far and will likely continue even after all the involved biker teens are dead. This realization is accompanied by the discovery that he and the monster are now one. So the only way to take it down is to kill himself, which he does. But now, after all that, Ed is buried in Pumpkinhead's grave, waiting for the next unlucky soul to come around looking for revenge. And somebody will, which will start this whole ordeal over again. So even if Pumpkinhead is temporarily stopped, it's inevitable that someone else will indeed come along and bring the monster to life. Nobody ever seems to learn, eh? History repeating itself, and so on. Coming in at number 4, we've got Clover from Cloverfield. We've talked about this before on the channel, but it's worth bringing up for this list. The Clover we meet in New York on the night of Rob's going away party is just a wee baby. That's right, the enormous, destructive, and seemingly indestructible monster that rampages through the city is only a fraction of the size that it could one day be. Most of Cloverfield is seen through the lens of HUD's camera and doesn't feature too much of the monster. However, through context and some reversible Easter eggs, we learn all sorts of terrible details about this creature. It spawns strange parasites that flood the underground and decapitates the Statue of Liberty. The government seems to have a contingency plan for something like this though. They execute the Hammer Down Protocol, which seems to be a crazy concentrated rain of explosives meant to level Manhattan and kill the monster. Not everyone evacuates, so we get a front row seat of widespread destruction. One might assume that so much explosive power concentrated on one area would just kill about anything, right? But after the credits, we get a little soundbite that seems to say, "Help us." Play it backwards though, and you hear, "It's still alive." Even Hammer Down Protocol wasn't enough to fell a baby Clover. So what would stop a monster like this? Good question. I actually don't have an answer for it. It can't be stopped. You know, the whole point behind this video. Plus, if you watch the Cloverfield Paradox, you meet another full-grown Clover, and this thing breaks through the clouds standing on 2 feet. Yeah, unstoppable indeed. Coming in at number 3, we've got It from It Follows. If throwing a bunch of electronics into a swimming pool can't stop this thing, nothing can. Okay, all jokes about the goofy climax aside, the monster from It Follows is seriously upsetting. It will follow you to the ends of the earth forever and ever, always at the same pace, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Sure, you could pass it on to someone and they could do the same, but you're only prolonging the inevitable. Eventually someone will slip up and get caught, and then the creature will work its way down the line. People will be careful if they know the rules, but there's no no way to actually track who's getting stalked when and who's already been caught. Unless somebody wants to go to great lengths and create some sort of comprehensive sexually transmitted demon database, which would also require having people believe in this thing in the first place, it would be way too hard to track without dedicating your entire life to it. So once you get it, it will loom over you for the rest of your days. Killing it doesn't work either. You can shoot it or shock it or attempt to drown it and it'll still come back in the form of some human somewhere. Just a total nightmare however you slice it. So yeah, it can't be stopped. It'll follow, you know, because it follows. Coming in at number 2, we've got Godzilla. An all-time legendary movie monster, Godzilla truly is king. There's nothing the average person can do about the nuclear lizard from the deep. And even with extensive resources mobilized, you'll have to hope and pray that whatever you're attempting will work. And even if it does work, there are more iterations of Godzilla and co waiting for you. Technically, Godzilla has died at least 4 times. Even though he's immune to conventional weaponry and can heal at insane rates, it's indeed possible to end Godzilla's life. In the original, he is just absolutely obliterated by the oxygen destroyer. Later on, in Godzilla 1985, he's killed via cadmium missile-induced heart failure. Even then, he comes back to life thanks to nuclear fallout. While fighting Destroya, his nuclear heart overheats and melts down, and in Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, giant monsters all out attack, a missile goes off within his chest, causing atomic energy to disintegrate him. With this last one though, his heart starts beating again anyways while the credits roll. So it is incredibly hard to kill Godzilla, and even if you do kill him, it's not guaranteed that he'll stay that way. And even if he does, he'll just come back another time in another movie. So there is no stopping Godzilla. You might as well let whatever destruction is underway run its course and then hope that he returns to the sea. I suppose in Shin Godzilla they managed to freeze him in place forever, but he could always wake up. And finally at number 1, we've got the gods from The Cabin in the Woods. You might be wondering, how do you top Godzilla on an unstoppable monster list? Well, by looking inwards. Who really has the final say over what monsters stick around and which ones are lost to obscurity? The protagonist? The government? The child of prophecy? The answer is actually none of the above. It's the movie-going audience. And nowhere is this more clear than in the super meta love letter to horror that is Cabin in the Woods. See, you can point to any of the monsters that are released from their holding cells and say that is a monster that cannot be stopped. However, that's only partially true, seeing as all of failsafe monsters from around the world were thwarted. But there is a group of monsters who will never stop and never be satisfied. The vengeful gods above, who force humans to play out their petty horror dramas for their satisfaction. These gods can be interpreted as literal eldritch deities watching over humanity and annihilating everything when they're unhappy. But they can also be seen as stand-ins for the horror audience at large. They want to see new concepts put into place, but they also have to stick to the familiar formulas. There needs to be more horror, but you can't just retread the same ground. Fit these roles, shed more blood, or else. And if that doesn't sound like an audience, I don't know what does. The rampage never ends, in universe or symbolically. With all of these incredibly powerful and unstoppable monsters, life gets a little simpler. Once you can accept the things you cannot change, your own life will improve greatly. Or you'll get eaten by a monster, 50-50. So what'd you think of the list? Do you agree with my selections? What horror movie monster will still be kicking long after all these folks run out of steam? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more grating ones. From the top 5 best anime horror movies you need to watch part 2. Night of Lakin says, when I see anime in top 5, I must click. We compel you to click, click and click again. Lorado Bosman says, Bloodlust is one of my favorites. I love all of today's picks. Can't wait for part 3. Hell yeah, keep the good vibes coming. Classic FAS 9107 says, Boku no Pico was enough to make me unable to sleep for an entire day, and it was seriously horrifying to me. That doesn't sound so bad, mostly because I sleep at night, but still. Bingo Bango says, man, old animators knew how to sell horror back in the day. Absolutely! Styles changed for a reason, but the old school horror anime style really was wicked. And No Name says, it's time where the weebs rise. Welcome to the party, weebs. Glad to have you here. And that's all the time we have for today. I'm going spelunking with no helmet light. Wish me luck. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Crikey. Is that picking up? Okay. Burstable Easter eggs, we learn all sorts of terrible details about this creature. However, through context and through even though he's immune to conventional heal at insane rates and is indeed even though he's immune to conventional weapon, what is happening? And now ever, what? That's
Maybe now more than ever?
now more than ever. This is and nowhere. I think I might have said it should have been nowhere. Now ever. Now ever. It's a new word. Deities watching over humanity and annihilating anything when they're not. These gods can be watching over humanity and annihilating anything when they're unhappy. Nope. Can we scroll back up? I can't do this line for some reason. Just not figuring it out today. It's Friday. Help. They want to see new concepts put into place, but they also want with all these incredibly
Have you ever been watching a horror movie and thought, why aren't these people running away? Why are they going into the cellar? Why are these people so stupid? I do. I find myself trying to figure out how to kill a movie monster before we even get a chance to see it. Some movies have monsters you barely see or don't see at all. So how can you make a successful horror movie without showing the monster too much? Well, I'm your host Taylor McWaters, and here are the top 5 horror movie monsters you won't see coming. Number 5, the entity. It follows. So what's worse than being followed by an invisible monster? Well, how about being followed slowly by an invisible monster? That's right, the supernatural entity is the main antagonist of the 2014 film It Follows. Whoever has the curse is being followed by a dark evil entity that's invisible to everybody except you. Yeah, this entity that follows you takes on the form of a human. It can even change its weight, gender, size, and even fashion sense. Not really feeling this shirt. Poof, different shirt. Must be nice. So this entity is a pretty powerful one to say the least. I mean, super strength, unlimited stamina, it never needs to sleep either. Another unreal thing. The scariest thing about this entity is that it doesn't stop following you ever. Hence the film title, It Follows. It walks towards you very slowly at all times. After I saw this movie, I was waiting for the bus and I couldn't look at slow walkers anymore. I wasn't a fan of them before, and I sure as I'm not a fan of them now. Another thing to know about this thing is that in order to pass on the curse of this entity, you need to have sex with someone. You can't just send them an email and be on with your day. You gotta get close. The entity will always follow the most recent victim of the curse and continue working its way backwards in consecutive order. Only those who have had the curse can see the entity. So even if you pass it on and you're good, you can still see it even when it's not coming for you. I feel like that's worse, if anything. You just see an old lady walking towards your friend's house, you're like, I know exactly what's gonna happen there. So what happens once you get the curse? Well, step 1, run. Run far and run fast. The writer of It Follows confirms that anywhere you go, it can go as well. So if you think you can just hop in a rowboat with a few White Claws and just head to an island for a year, unscathed, you're wildly mistaken. If you haven't seen It Follows, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not into the movie, it's still a fun time to watch and imagine how you yourself would get away from this entity. It's a conversation starter to say the least. Number 4, Calvin. Life. First of all, the name Calvin is great, not scary at all. Calvin and Hobbes, those are my boys, ride or die. Life, starring Rebecca Ferguson, Ryan Reynolds, and Jake Gyllenhaal, was released in 2017, directed by Daniel Espinosa. Despite its friendly name, Calvin is a biological nightmare. First discovered by a team of scientists on the International Space Station, or ISS if you're one of those cool kids who wears NASA shirts. Calvin is a rapidly evolving life form that supposedly killed all life on Mars. What begins as a very small sample of dormant organic tissue, each cell is a nerve, muscle, and an eye, all at the same time. So this thing can do some wacky stuff.
Wake up.
Okay, so right off the bat, you can see Calvin evolve and get smarter by the minute. It uses its tentacles to grab tools and then uses the tools to escape. He's really fast and slimy, so you won't see it coming at all. Kind of like an octopus, if you had an octopus in space and said octopus loved devouring people. Yeah, that's another thing. After it eats a test rat early on in the movie, Calvin grows immediately. Being stuck in space with a group of scientists, Calvin soon realizes what it must do: kill. And as far as horror movie monsters go, this thing is up there. I mean, the fact that it can grow essentially forever, mixed with it being immortal, there's no fight. You're out. This movie feels a lot like Alien, but it's much smaller scale, adds a sense of urgency to it. And the fact that they're scientists too, they're not like these military space soldiers sent in to shoot anything that moves. They just want to look at some cool stuff through a microscope and then, you know, go down in history forever. Is that too much to ask for? Come on, guys. After the first trailer for the movie was released, it was widely speculated that it was in fact a Sony Venom crossover movie trying to tie in the Spider-Man universe. I believe that as well. But once I saw the movie, I think it's safe to say that the web slinger wouldn't have a chance with this thing. Zero chance. Sorry, Tom Holland. Tobey Maguire, maybe. Tom Holland, I don't know. Probably not. Number 3, The Invisible Man. Directed by Leigh Whannell, starring Elizabeth Moss, The Invisible Man was released in 2020. The film shares the same title as its villain, simply an invisible man. Also known as Adrian Griffin, after faking his own death and giving his estate to Cecilia Cass, the abusive ex-husband uses a suit with several small cameras to do his dirty work. Elizabeth Moss absolutely crushes this movie. I mean, for a villain that's invisible, her acting is so good. After I saw her performance in Jordan Peele's Us, I was really excited to see what else she did in the horror game. With all these movies that have an invisible threat, it's so hard to convince the audience just how alarming this monster is. And I think Elizabeth Moss did a bang-up job. So what about this Adrian Griffin guy? What's his deal? Well, he's abusive, mentally and physically, super wealthy, super smart, and well, he has an invisible suit. So you're What a combo. There's not much backstory given for Adrian's motives, which I kinda liked. Sometimes movies try a bit too hard to explain the villain, and it usually tips us off in some way how it's gonna be inevitably beaten. Less is more. I wanna know just as much information as the victims. Like, man, I spent $26 to see this movie, and like $9 extra to grab a drink. Stop spoon feeding me the plot details. I'll get there. What I loved more about this villain is that I legit hated this guy as I was watching it. He uses the suit to make her think she's insane. He hides pieces of her work during an interview just to make her look unprofessional. He even drugs her so that she collapses. This dude sucks. How to fight somebody who's invisible? I'll tell you, baby powder, poof, and lots of fans. We've all seen Home Alone, we know what's up. Number 2, The Thing. The Thing does not want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies, nobody left to kill, and then it's won. Those were the words of R.J. McGreedy, played by Kurt Russell in the 1982 classic The Thing. Directed by John Carpenter, The Thing also shares the same name with the movie Monster. If you were a fan of the movie, you can catch the 2011 prequel starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So what is The Thing? Well, its true form remains a mystery, of course. So what do we know about it? Well, for starters, it can shapeshift. It can copy any organic material and take on the appearance of a close friend or even a pet. The Thing made its first appearance as a stray dog in the original version. One day you're hanging out with a buddy and then all of a sudden his dog's face opens up and tentacles start attacking you. It's not cool, man. Stop. No. Sit. Put those tentacles back in your damn mouth. This extraterrestrial organism is an ambush predator. It isolates the threat and then consumes it, wisely. So when the Thing attacks, it exposes its true form in a way. Once it bursts open, it exposes these random parts of organic matter that it's consumed over the past. So you'll see like eyeballs, maybe some bugs, some teeth just kind of hanging out there. Just a whole lot of you don't want to see. Similar to the Death Angels from A Quiet Place, the Thing opens itself up and exposes its vulnerability as well. So the only way to harm the Thing is to use fire or molecular acid. The Thing likes the cold, a lot. It can even go into cryogenic state until the next feeding frenzy and just hang out. Kind of like Captain America, except disgusting, you know? So what can't this Thing do? Well, it can't mimic non-living materials. In the 2011 prequel, we have Kate finding metal fillings in a pool of blood, tipping her off that there may be a way to get ahead of this whole operation. But it's not that easy. The Thing doesn't just take on the form of a friend, it can actually absorb memories and characteristics too. So you can't just find the guys in the room eating a lizard and call it a day. You're like, okay, that's obviously the guy. You gotta get some detective work going. Ask them the questions. And if all this wasn't bad enough, the Thing can divide and conquer. So you might see a random head with crab legs walking around, and then minutes later you see some dude's leg eating a bird. The smaller the form, the more it puts up a quicker fight. Whereas if the Thing grew into a larger, much more human size, it would continue trying to blend in and kind of play it smart. It'll even attack itself to cause a distraction while another form of itself gets away. Smart. Number 1, Bird Box. Released in 2018 on Netflix and reeling in over 45 million views within the first week of its release, Bird Box, starring Sandra Bullock and directed by Suzanne Bier, does not show the monster at all. Which, okay, some of us loved, some of us didn't love, some of us hated it. How can you show an entire movie based around a villain without ever showing them? Well, let me explain. So referred to as them, the creatures that roam the earth drive people insane simply by making eye contact. We find Mallory, played by Sandy Bullock, an artist who spends most of her time locked down and isolated from the world. And as mass suicides are spreading in Russia, Mallory surrounds herself with her dark art pieces. Mallory knows her loneliness is a choice, so she sets out to connect with other survivors during this time. So what's the monster? Why are people going crazy? Why is Sandra Bullock wearing a blindfold for a lot of this movie? This creature, or force rather, started in Siberia in Russia and started to spread over time. Once the force is seen by you, it will change the way you think. Possess you, basically. It manipulates your thoughts. Even if you're the happiest, most kind person on earth, this force will find a part of you that is dark and make it grow and overtake your mind, ultimately causing you to take your own life. The force can also take somebody like a murderer, someone who you know has already done dark and violent stuff, and propel them to continue harming others in a much more vile way. Charlie, played by Lil Ray Howery, who we all loved from Jordan Peele's Get Out, explains his theory to the other survivors. He believes that we have been judged by the spirit gods, by the all-seers, and they're taking a form of our darkest thoughts and fears to consume us and take over the world. So they're demons, basically. These monsters of mass hysteria don't have a physical form. The film was supposed to show the monster's true physical form, but after Sandra Bullock herself straight up laughed at the sight of the concept art, imagine Sandra Bullock laughing at months of your work. How amazing. The director decided maybe to keep it a mystery. Good call. There you have it, guys. Look, I know we missed a ton of monsters, so let us know in the comments which ones you want to hear from, and then we'll put them in a part 2 maybe. And as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any more videos in the future. I'm Taylor McWaters. Okay, see ya. I paid $26 for this drink. Stop spoody-woody me. What do we know about it? Well, for starters, it can shapeshift. It can shit its pants. Tobey Maguire maybe. Tom Holland, I don't know. Probably not. He's too cute. I don't know why I said cute. We'll cut that out. He is cute. No, I'll say it. Tom Holland, you're cute, man. Like and subscribe, whatever.
Over the years, we have been blessed with iconic horror monsters that take to the screen and chill us to our core for years to come. From the Thing in The Thing to the xenomorphin alien to Predator, there are countless monsters to traumatize you. However, let's discuss the monsters that appear once and then disappear forever. Today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 horror movie monsters you only see once. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. In at 5 we have Silent Hill Revelation Mannequin Creature. This mannequin monster hails from an underwhelming movie, but is by no means an underwhelming monster. Released in 2012 and directed by MJ Bassett, Silent Hill Revelation stars a slew of stars including Kit Harington, Malcolm McDowell, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Sean B. With the film following adult Heather Mason on the eve of her 18th birthday as she is drawn into an alternate dimension which exists in the ominous town of Silent Hill. Now, as I said before, this is arguably the worst movie on our entire list, which is saying a lot, with critics absolutely panning it. It was so bad it received a mere 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, with the general consensus reading, mediocre effort even by the standards of video game adaptations. Silent Hill Revelation 3D features weak characters and an incomprehensible plot with a shortage of scares. Straight savagery, but they're not wrong. However, one good thing to come out of this misery of a movie is the mannequin creature, a monster that exists in one scene but is truly terrifying to behold. In this scene, the protagonist is attacked by the mannequin monstrosity, with it being made up of a variety of mannequin parts and chasing the protagonist around like a giant spider. It's one terrifying moment to exist in an incredibly underwhelming movie. I suggest you just watch this scene on YouTube. Like I said, you only see it once. Why waste your time watching the entire thing? In at number 4, Society, Butthead. Now this one is a personal favourite on this list. You will likely gauge by the name, but I will explain very soon. Released in 1989 and directed by Brian Yuzna, this body horror movie follows a teenager from Beverly Hills who discovers his parents are part of a gruesome cult for the social elite. The film is essentially a giant metaphor for the rich feeding on the poor, but come to life. The finale is certainly one you won't be forgetting about anytime soon, with bodies melting together and a face emerging from someone's butt. These practical effects are absolutely insane and incredibly impressive, but like I said, the most impressive is of course the butthead. Early on in the movie, the protagonist of the story calls his stepfather a butthead, and like any great satirical film, that is what happens to him by the end of the movie. He is quite literally a walking talking butthead, and it's so damn entertaining to look at. If you're prone to feeling queasy during body horror movies, I suggest you don't watch Society, but trust me when I say this scene is truly one of a kind. Truly. In at number 3 we have Pan's Labyrinth, the Pale Man. The Pale Man has become an iconic figure since the release of Pan's Labyrinth back in 2006, which of course was directed by the legendary Guillermo del Toro. The movie itself takes place in 1944 in Spain, with it intertwining the real world with the mythical world as a young girl meets strange and mythical creatures which become pivotal to her story. The movie is beautiful yet haunting, with the creatures depicted being downright terrifying and never before seen on screen. One of these monsters is the Pale Man, the scariest monster in the entire film, but one we only get to see once. He is a pale-skinned humanoid with eyeballs in the palms of his hands, giving him an absolutely terrifying appearance. It is perceived during the scene that the Pale Man consumes children, with paintings on the wall depicting grisly scenes of children being devoured, and then of course in his lair are piles of children's clothing and shoes. The Pale Man has all of 5 minutes of screen time, but manages to leave a lasting imprint on the movie, what with him placing his eyeballs onto his hands and then giving chase. He is terrifying to look at and absolutely impossible to forget, with Doug Jones giving a phenomenal performance. Coming in at number 2 we have Silent Hill, Colin the Janitor. Now this dude is incredibly freaky and truly scared the out of me the first time I saw this movie. Released in 2006 and directed by Christoph Gans, Silent Hill is the adaptation of the popular video game Silent Hill. The movie follows a mother, Rose, who is forced to take her adopted daughter Sharon to the town of Silent Hill after she repeatedly calls out for it in her sleep. However, when the pair arrive, things descend into madness, with Sharon disappearing and Rose having to unravel the secrets of this bizarre and chilling place. Along the way, Sharon is forced to fight a local cult composed of some unsettling figures and creatures, one of which is Colin the Janitor. Now Colin appears in Midwich School before Rose enters what is known as the Otherworld. She discovers the corpse of a janitor in a store with the message reading, I quote, dare you, double dare you, with an arrow pointing to the janitor's mouth. Very strange. So Rose reaches in because she's a crazy woman, but in reality she is hoping it'll lead to her finding her daughter. Anyway, as she does this, she is transported to the Otherworld, an alternate reality where all these horrific things come to life, and Colin the Janitor begins to move, crawling across the floor trying to get to Rose. Thankfully she escapes just in time, but Colin's screams can still be heard echoing down the halls as she flees. This dude is honestly so damn terrifying, and to be honest with you, I've only ever watched Silent Hill once, and that was when it first came out. It truly did terrify me, and I have yet to return to it because of that. Sharing is over. Bye. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have The Cabin in the Woods, Merman. The Cabin in the Woods is one of the more recent monster movies, but it is iconic nonetheless, hitting us hard with some of the most terrifying monsters to appear on screen. Released in 2011 and directed by Drew Goddard, The Cabin in the Woods follows a group of college students who go to a remote cabin but quickly fall victim to backwoods zombies that are controlled by underground technicians, housing disturbing monsters used for an even more disturbing purpose. Now, spoilers ahead for those who haven't seen the movie yet. The group of teens are essentially planted in the cabin by technicians who need them to die as a blood sacrifice to the gods living deep beneath the earth. If a blood sacrifice isn't made, these gods will emerge and destroy the entire world. Sucks. Anyway, in the underground facility, a slew of monsters are housed and released depending on what objects the teens interact with inside of the cabin. It is mentioned throughout by one of the technicians that he has yet to see the merman in action, so of course we hope we get to catch a glimpse of this beast as well. By the end of the movie, 2 of the teens have come out on top, storming the facility and setting the monsters on the technicians. Even the merman, which we finally get to see in action for just a few short seconds as it drags its body towards the technician that so desperately wanted to see it. It is absolutely disturbing, but an even better punchline to a long gag that occurs throughout the movie. An interesting snippet of information that I just learned now while scripting this video, or I did when I was scripting the video. All the special effects, monster costumes, makeup and prosthetic makeup was done by Heather Langenkamp. Now this name may sound familiar to you, and that's because she played Nancy in A Nightmare on Elm Street. How cool is that? Not much shocks me, but that truly shocked me. Who knew that's what Nancy was doing with her life? I didn't know. It's pretty damn cool. There's a bunch of other shit she did as well. Can't remember now, but I remember being like, whoa. There was a bunch. There was a few things. That's what she does. She doesn't really act anymore. She does makeup. How cool. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any horror movie monsters that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments on one of our last videos. Top 5 scary horror movie stalkers. Gordon Snell said, Queen Lucy, just remember you're perfect and the best. Thanks, I'm neither perfect nor the best, but thank you for thinking that. I appreciate it. Tamsin said, the creeper from Jeepers Creepers. The creep and creep. This is a creepy comment, lol. I don't even know what you're saying, but the creeper from Jeepers Creepers is a great movie stalker. Should have included him. The creep and creep, I don't know what you're saying. And then yes, this is a creepy comment, because nothing makes sense, lol. Edmund Williams said, my favorite stalker movie is Lucy. Cute. I'm not a stalker to anyone, but if it means you're a stalker, that's kind of creepy. I've had a stalker. Sucked. Really sucked. Had to go to the police. Sucked. Ox Micah XO said, nice to see your face today. Thanks. I'm not around as often as I'd like to be anymore. Sad. I used to be on this channel every day. They hate me, so they got rid of me. Just kidding. I'm busy. Adam's House said, Chloe Grace Moretz is honestly one of my favorites. Well, that's your opinion, not mine. She can act, but I think I can act. I think we can all act. But should she do it? I'd say no. I'd say no to that. She was good in Kick-Ass. She can just do that for life. Piggy Lump said, top 5 scary videos channel host stalkers I wish I had, Dark Queen Lucy. Sorry, I'm not gonna stalk you, I'm too busy as it is. Don't have time or energy or care to do that. Sorry. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later. The Cabin in the Woods is one of the more recent monster... The Cabin in the Woods is one of the more recent... What do you mean? The mic? Oh. Is it fine? It's okay? Okay.
Water is scary, especially when it forms large bodies. This rings especially true across pretty much all situations. Being on totally open water is freaky. Seeing things rise up from the depths is freaky. Watching storms and waves and other naturally occurring aquatic phenomena is freaky. So it stands to reason that horror movies would take advantage of water's inherent scare factor. All of the terrifying creatures that lurk below the surf come out to play, often with bloody and brutal results. It started with sharks and only got weirder from there. Would you rather know what was hiding underwater or live in blissful ignorance? Hello horror heads and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 aquatic horror movie monsters. If you didn't already know, we are doing our Halloween where we all dress up in crazy costumes and have a good time. Who am I? You might be asking. I'm famous ping pong champion Lewis Table Tennis. That's right. If you want more beasts, make sure to check out our top 5 scary creatures playlist right over here. Wicked, let's get to it. Coming in number 5, we've got the Meg from The Meg. Sometimes I wonder how many shark movies actually exist and my brain overheats. Like ever since Jaws, there's been an obsession with gigantic sharp-toothed fish flying through the water and eviscerating people. Sometimes they jump way out of the water, other times they manage to sneakily chew a limb or two off a swimmer. Hell, there's even been instances of them finding their way into a tornado or two. But the most recent big shark flick took the idea and supersized it, like quite literally too. While it might not be a horror movie by strict standards, it definitely delivers on the terrifying aquatic monster. This movie is all about a team of scientists who come across a whopping 75-foot long megalodon shark. That is the titular Meg. Could you imagine ever seeing a predator that was 75 feet long, especially in the dark, murky depths of the ocean? Well, here's the thing. 75 feet is just the beginning. Spoilers for anyone who's really invested in this shark movie that came out 2 years ago. So after all sorts of crazy underwater antics, the crew manages to snag the Meg. They caught the thought to be extinct mega shark. Rejoice! But hold on. It's way too early for the shark to be done so. We're only like an hour into the movie. Well, if you thought there had to be more, you'd be right. While celebrating their catch, the crew witnesses something truly awe-inspiring. Another, bigger megalodon shark speeds its way onto the scene and eats the first one. After instilling a sense of awe in the audience early on with the original giant shark, they decide to blow those expectations out of the water with an even more enormous aquatic monster. Just awesome. Say what you will about the movie as a whole, there is nothing cool than a giant shark getting devoured by an even gianter shark. Coming at number 4, we've got piranhas from Piranha 3D. For another journey into the land of absurdly sized fish, let's take a look at Piranha 3D. This is B-movie schlock at its peak. An earthquake opens up a chasm at the bottom of a lake, releasing thousands of ancient carnivorous fish just in time for spring break. And they are hungry. They've been surviving via cannibalism for the 2 million years they've been assumed to be extinct, and they are ready for some fresh meat. Fresh human meat. These things are vicious. They tear people apart in seconds, leaving goofy little bloody skeletons behind. It's a sight to behold for sure. I guess spending millions of years in an underground cavern void of light full of the remains of the brethren you just consumed makes you aggressive or something. Isn't that the backstory of the monsters in The Descent? I'm getting off track here. Most movies use the anticipation of the monster to really sell the scares, but not Piranha 3D. These things go full tilt from the very beginning. They rise from the bottom of the lake and don't stop eating until the very end. And really, at the very end, they're still eating. Sure, the kills start small, but they grow by orders of magnitude. We open on a lone man being devoured, then we get a fishing boat, then some scuba divers bite the big one in the sky. Of course, the bit that everyone remembers is when the piranhas plow through a beach party. Thousands of lives extinguished. Just like that. Whirlpools of piranhas tear people apart with seemingly zero effort, followed by fish jumping out of the water to get at all the landlubbers. And the best part? Piranha did the bigger, badder thing before the Meg. That's right. The piranhas that take out an entire crop of spring breakers are actually babies. They're immature, only a fraction of the size of a full-grown one. Then, as the movie ends, we catch a glimpse of a full-size piranha, bigger than a grown man. And there's more on the way. I love B-movies. Coming at number 3, we've got the bioluminescent creature from Sea Fever. Our first two movies reveled in the bombastic, so let's slow it down for a second. Sea Fever is slow and suffocating in its application of aquatic terror. It really takes its time getting under your skin, but boy, when the fear strikes, it strikes big. It's one of those movies where you're never quite sure if what you think is happening is actually happening, but plenty of clues keep the tension high. Siobhan, a reclusive scientist, finds herself on an Irish fishing trawler heading out to sea. The captain steers the ship towards an exclusion zone, knowing that there are plenty of fish out there even if it's off limits. He doesn't tell the rest of the crew though, leaving them to assume that their big catch was just lucky and outside of the exclusion zone. The exclusion zone was erected for good reason though, as the folks aboard soon find out. During their journey, something stops their boat. Goopy, slimy breaches appear in the hull, and whatever's causing them continues to hold the boat in place. Thinking it's a shoal or something similar, Siobhan hops off the side to do a research dive and discovers the culprit. Glowing tentacles originating from a gigantic organism way down below. It is so vast that she cannot see the full form of it from where she is. After their encounter with these strange tendrils, the boat is freed and off they go. But that's just the beginning. See, the big creature manages to infect a crewmate by cutting his hand, injecting larvae into his bloodstream. He starts acting weird, and at first the captain chalks it up to sea fever. You know, when you're stuck on a boat, you start going a little crazy. Too late though, because this guy's eyes explode out of his head, and the more mature larvae make it into the ship's water supply. Anyone could be infected at that point. The bioluminescent creature manages to be incredibly scary while also somewhat sympathetic. It's just an unknown animal doing its best to survive as animals do. They shouldn't have been in the exclusion zone anyway. Although the monster isn't really a virus, sea fever manages to be extremely painfully prescient, as folks want to leave quarantine to get help without considering that they could cause so many more problems in doing so. Coming in at number 2, we've got the creatures from the beach house. Now, if you really want to get Lovecraftian with your aquatic monsters, you gotta head down to the beach house. If an aquatic creature is bioluminescent, it probably means that we as humans were never meant to see it. They come from the deep, deep depths, and encountering anything like that is probably the result of hubris. In the beach house, a young couple heads down to a beach house for some time off. They find that a couple of family friends are there all ready to have one last vacation before terminal illness takes hold of the wife. After eating some edibles, everyone has a weird experience involving water quality, fog, glowing stuff, and more. These oddities are assumed to be side effects to the consuming of marijuana, so nobody thinks too much about it. The morning after has a different story to tell though. The beach is empty save for some strange jellyfish, and everyone seems to have sustained odd injuries. The older couple, Mitch and Jane, are acting very strange, with Mitch walking into the water and not returning, and Jane remaining in a catatonic state. Soon it becomes apparent that something is very wrong with the jellyfish seeming to infect people, turning them into flesh-hungry zombies. They send little bugs skittering and slithering into people's open wounds, and if you don't rip them out quick enough, you'll end up as a milky-eyed automaton. In addition to the jellyfish and bugs, there's also an infectious fog that will do similar things to people's minds and bodies. Not ideal. Whatever these beings are, they've fundamentally changed life on Earth in the beach house's world. If you're a fan of The Color Out of Space, you'll appreciate this one. And finally at number 1, we've got Bruce from Jaws. Easy number 1 pick, right? You can't go wrong with this shark-infested classic. Jaws set the standard for every shark movie to follow and hasn't ever been matched. Not to mention that it literally birthed the blockbuster. Plus it scared people out of swimming, boating, and in some cases bathing for ages. It inspired folks to get out on the water and kill sharks for sport, which led to some terrible problems with the shark population. That's how much sway it had. The influence this aquatic monster had on the hearts and minds of people is insane, to say the least. In addition to branding the image of a gigantic horrible shark into the brains of every man, woman, and child, it also managed to be very restrained with its implementation of the underwater apex predator. predator. Sure, it was probably thanks to plenty of malfunctions in the shark animatronic, but rarely actually seeing the shark really ups the white-knuckle tension. That and the iconic strings. To this day, people know exactly what you're talking about if you sing da-dun, da-dun, dun 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 dun. People who haven't seen Jaws know that means a shark is coming. Phenomenal stuff. Plus, Jaws stays socially relevant. Consider the implications of closing down the beach and therefore business on Amity Island versus what's happening as a result of this pandemic. It might seem like I'm reaching, but the comparison stands. Jaws will never get stale. Good thing winter's coming, that'll keep you away from the water for a little while. No swimming means no shark attacks, right? Or unknown glowing monster attacks, or piranha attacks. You get what I'm trying to say. So, what'd you think of the list? Have you seen all these movies? Has a horror movie ever scared you away from the water? What's the best aquatic horror movie monster of all time? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more bizarre ones from the top 5 SCP monsters likely to escape part 3. The Romanian dude says, I love SCPs. Just be careful, not all of them love you. Timothy Plemons says, I'm having pizza rolls for lunch. Make sure you save some for me, and also make sure you wait 5 minutes after you take them out of the oven. Burning the roof of your mouth is no joke. Tanya Muscatello says, I am commenting on this video even if I'm on my mom's YouTube account. That's fine. Shout out to your mom. And Laz Toth says, Happy Halloween, Keegan. Happy Halloween hangover, Laz Toth. What'd you dress up as? Michita Ichim says, I'm literally first, and I'm not kidding. You are literally correct, and I'm not joking. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I clean up my act and settle down, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more wet wildness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm famous ping pong champion, Lewis Table Tennis. That's right.
That was worth it. At least nothing dropped.
Yeah. They sailed a little higher than I thought. I hit the bar. We're good. They're just pants.
What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Top 5 Scary Videos. Halloween is just around the corner. Pumpkin spice lattes, cozy sweaters, scary movies. I mean, what is there not to love? Whenever I watch a horror movie, all I can think about are ways that I could have survived if I was in the movie. I get so into it. I can't help it. It's sort of like when a character holds their breath in a movie. Of course I'm gonna hold my breath at the same time, man. We're a unit, we're a team. I got your back. Plus, I need to know that if I was in a similar situation, I would survive. But some movies, however, I wish I never had to experience any part of. That being said, I'm Taylor McWaters, and here are our top 5 horror movie monsters we're glad are not real. Kicking off the list at number 5. Chucky, Child's Play. It goes without question that every child has imagined being friends with their favorite toys growing up. I mean, after I saw a Toy Story, I legit interrogated all my Beanie Babies and tried to get them to talk. I would like hold the light in their face, the whole thing. Also, yeah, I had Beanie Babies. I still do. What's up? What's up? Well, in 1988, that idea quickly became terrifying when Child's Play hit the big screen. Child's Play is a tale of a serial killer named Charles Lee Ray who uses voodoo to transfer his soul into a popular kids doll named Chucky. And once he's in his new, much smaller body, he then unleashes a trail of murder. See, normally when you think of monsters, a 30-inch doll is not the first thing that comes to your mind. The reason I started this list off with Chucky is because he's a bit different than your average haunted doll. Chucky has the strength of a full-grown adult. He's practically immortal, and he knows voodoo. He's also a big fan of stabbing people, so in other words, you're f***ed. In 2019, the remake of Child's Play hit big with audiences due to the fact that Chucky uses modern technology to help carry out his murder sprees. After 7 movies, I can't help but wonder, what if Charles picked another toy to transfer his soul into? Like, I don't know, imagine if he used a Mr. Potato Head instead of a Chucky doll. That'd be even scarier. Man, imagine him just hucking his ears at children left and right, doing voodoo. No thanks, I'm all set. Number 4, Bagul. Sinister. When the new horror classic Sinister hit theaters in 2012, Bagul was the talk of the town. Sinister is a gruesome tale of an ancient pagan deity that children commonly refer to as Mr. Boogie. That's a fun nickname. Mr. Boogie. Mr. Boogie sounds like that uncle that dances a bit too much at weddings after he's had a bit too many drinks. But in this flick, Mr. Boogie is much more of a nuisance. The film follows the life of horror novelist Ellison Oswald, played by Ethan Hawke. Ellison decides to move into a new house with his family and begins working on his newest novel. What Ellison fails to mention to his family is that their new property is home to a previous violent murder scene. Awkward, where an entire family was found hanging from a tree in the backyard, except the youngest daughter, who went missing. So, curious about the house and the disappearances of children in similar cases, Ellison decides to figure it out himself, hoping it'll spark ideas for a new, fresh novel in the meantime. Talk about writer's block. Once settled in, Ellison finds numerous Super 8 film reels in a dusty old box sitting by itself in the attic. So naturally curious, he watches all the footage and discovers the box contains several pieces of footage that shows families getting murdered in horrible ways. Ellison doesn't realize that by watching these reels, he's inviting Bagul into his home again. Bagul makes his mark and quickly starts to haunt the family in many creepy ways. And the scary part of Bagul is that he doesn't really do much. I mean, sure, he's terrifying to look at, but Bagul gets into kids' heads and makes them poison their families and do all crazy things. Traitors! The next time my niece asks me to have a tea party, I'm gonna ask her a few questions first. I mean, as long as you don't have any Super 8 film just casually laying around in any attic, you should be okay. Number 3. Count Dracula. I can't talk about Bagul and not bring up this tall weirdo as well. If you could pick any superpower, what would it be? Would it be flight? Immortality? The ever-growing lust for blood? All the above? Perfect. From Van Helsing to Hotel Transylvania, his tale has been told in well over 50 movies. That's like 48 movies too much. Count Dracula is a vampire written by Bram Stoker in 1897. Dracula's powers include super strength, enhanced senses, weather manipulation, and of course, immortality. Dracula is known commonly for biting his victim's neck, thus turning them into a bat forever. Which I wouldn't mind, to be honest. I've been late far too often. I wouldn't mind some little wings, some little wangs here and there. I'm not a fan of the whole forever being a bad thing, but we'll talk. Bram Stoker took inspiration from a Romanian ruler nicknamed Vlad the Impaler. Great nickname, jeez. I mean, 10 out of 10. When I was a kid, they would call me Tattletale Taylor, for obvious reasons. Immortality and superhuman strength are just a couple of ways Dracula could hurt you. The only ways you can hurt Dracula or escape his grasp are by using sunlight, a stake to the heart, or garlic. A wooden stake to the heart, I don't know, that's doable. I got these lanky arms, I could probably reach something in the air. Maybe I could, I don't know, 6 feet? I got like 6 feet on both these sides, we're good. I never understood the garlic part though. I mean, you can suck the soul out of people and turn them into a bat, but you can't enjoy some garlic bread? Grow up, Dracula. Grow up. Number 2, Death Angels, A Quiet Place. These days, sneezing around anybody can cause quite the frenzy. But now imagine if you're sitting at home, just chilling, watching TV, and then seconds after you sneeze, a horde of blind monsters break through your door and try and kill you. Terrifying, right? Well, that's exactly the plot in the 2018 box office hit, A Quiet Place, written and directed by Jim Halpert. I mean, John Krasinski, whatever his name is. In this film, the world is plagued with monsters referred to as Death Angels. These creatures are blind and ready to kill just about anything that makes a sound. See, most horror movies, whether monsters, they ride solo, like Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees. Whenever there's one monster, I feel like it's easier to keep track of them, you know, see where the danger's at, therefore giving us, our protagonist, a fighting chance for survival. But in The Quiet Place, there's hundreds of these things, and each of them starved for flesh. According to Collider, John Krasinski has confirmed that Death Angels are indeed aliens. And these aliens have no eyes, but they have an extraordinary sense of hearing. Their skin is bulletproof, so if you're thinking of blasting off a few rounds and calling it a day, you are horribly mistaken. The Death Angels have a unique ability to unfold their face to help locate the sounds of their prey. Gross. But while doing so, they expose the inside of their body, which happens to be their only weak spot. So naturally, you're gonna take the first shot you have and aim for their weakness. But in doing so, you will attract more Death Angels to your current location. It's a lose-lose, John Krasinski. The only way to ensure safety from a Death Angel is to live in a naturally noisy area, like next to a ravine, or a waterfall, or a kid in grade 5 learning the recorder for the first time, whatever you want. To some people, a world in absolute silence sounds like a nightmare. Me? God no. Oh, sounds delicious. A world where no one can sing happy birthday to my face anymore? Sign me up. And finally, number 1. Pennywise, It. If you've read Stephen King's It or have seen the movie adaptations, you're no stranger to killer clowns. Oh, and I'm not talking about the 2016 clowns that went viral in America. And if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, make sure to check out our top 10 most amazing clown sightings over there, or there, or there, or wherever you are. See, Pennywise takes on the form of a deranged clown, but is in fact an alien entity that landed back on Earth in 1715 via asteroid. It's a cool entrance, I'll give him that. It wasn't long before a town named Derry was constructed near Pennywise's crash site. Pennywise feeds off his victims every 27 years. That's a weird diet. But he also feeds off you in your worst way imaginable. He takes your biggest fears and he uses them against you. What a dick! Pennywise has the ability to transform his physical body into just about anything that scares you. I mean, for some that would mean transforming into, I don't know, a giant spider. But for me, that would be turning into a giant student loans letter. Just thinking about that gives me goosebumps. The most recent movies are packed with scenes that'll leave you shocked. It Chapter 1 is one of my favorite horror movies, hands down. See, normally I find when CGI is used in a horror movie, it actually makes it worse. The acting is amazing and the sets are all beautifully done, and then all of a sudden this stupid CGI ghost comes in and doesn't even look good, and it pulls me out of the movie almost. But in It Chapter 1 and 2, the CGI is used to show the full capabilities of our villain. Most of the sequences are actually done quite well. One scene in particular that involves a projector in a garage gave me nightmares for a lot longer than I'd like to admit. So if you haven't checked that out yet, you got some homework to do tonight. Another reason why Pennywise is my #1 pick is because most movies have their villains strike after the sun goes down. You know, usually in the middle of the night when our protagonist is asleep, so they're caught off guard and also hella scarier. But Pennywise, he'll get you at a library in the middle of the day. He can also manipulate your surroundings to make the experience even worse. And on top of all that, he loves balloons, which is creepy. No one should like balloons. Nobody. Well, there you have it, guys. Which horror movie monsters are you glad do not exist? Let us know in the comments down below. I'm Taylor McWaters, and as always, thanks for watching.